The Kaya Girl, Chapter 12. The next time I felt the urgent need for Pfizer by my side was on the day of my wedding. It was 5 years later, and once again I was sitting at a festive table laden with food, with Mike and his family. Only we were dressed a little differently this time, especially me. Next to Mike sat his best man Steve, and the chair next to him was the one that should have been occupied by Pfizer. But it was in fact assigned to be my roommate, who had executed the duties as maid of honor admirably. Even now, she was at the buffet, ensuring that I got the kind of food I liked. No, it was not for any omission on her part that I felt the need for Pfizer. B was also a treasured friend and an indispensable part of my student years. But the thing was that Pfizer, even after 10 years of absence, was still the closest thing I had to a sister. The one I never had. I pictured her in the empty chair across from me saying, "Woy, Mrs. Mike," and smiling her king-size smile on this day of days. And once again I felt her with me in spirit, as I had in the church while Mike and I took our vows to have and to hold, till death us apart. Where was she now, I wondered as I started eating. Had she also got married? What did she look like now? What was she doing? And did she also think of me? Yes, I knew instinctively that was why her spirit was always with me at most important times of my life. I had chosen Auntie Lydia to help us cut the cake. She and I had long since patched up. She had discovered that Gifty was a thief after she became too bold and stole other things from her. And she was chasing boys too, giving me a lot of trouble, she told me, so I sacked her. You sacked her? I asked, feeling sorry for Gifty despite everything. Well, I sent her back to her people in the village, and then she said, "Abena, I'm really sorry about what happened that time with your Jaygeo friend, Pfizer." I was amazed that she still remembered her name. I was too hasty. I should have seen it at the time. She was a good girl, and she liked you so much. She would not have done such a thing to you, to us. "It's okay, Auntie Lydia," I said. "I should also not have gone behind your back. I'm sorry for that too." It was not a small thing for a proud woman like Auntie Lydia to apologize, and I was moved by it. I think it was a relief for her because she had always had a soft spot for me despite her brusque manner. Now she went out of her way for me, perhaps still to make amends in her own way. When I got married, she not only paid for, but organized my clothes for the engagement ceremony and then those of the entire wedding party. She went on one of her trips to Dubai and bought a stunning beaded ivory silk for my gown and lavender silk for the rest of the bridal party. She took me several times to her top designer to have the gown made exactly as I wished, and fussed it around with the bridesmaids and flower girls. On the wedding morning, she came to dress me together with Mommy, and I saw tears in her eyes as she pulled the sheer veil over my face. At the reception, Mike and I opened the floor to P-Square's "No One Be Like You." He sang the chorus out loud to me while we danced and got all the rest of the guests to join in. It was so typical of him. I couldn't stop laughing and everyone had a great time. He gave me an enormous plasma screen TV as a wedding gift. "It's fully compatible with everything," he assured me with that wicked smile. He would never let go of that joke. I didn't mind. I was also attached to it because it was part of the memory of how we had met. We had stayed in touch while he was in the US for his masters, and finally started actually getting to know each other through email and Facebook. He was one of those people who had hundreds of friends on Facebook, but he always made me feel special, the way he had the few times we had met at the university. I had become close to his family in his absence, and we started dating soon after he got back. The one tricky thing about it though was finally having to answer Steve's question about Pfizer. He had a girlfriend too, but his stubborn interest in Pfizer, the mystery girl, still had not died. She must have really made an impression on him that day in the market. I knew I could not escape anymore, so I prepared myself, deciding in advance how much I was ready to tell him. I did not mind telling him where she was from, but I debated in my head whether to tell him the truth about what she was, what she had been at that time. And that was when, to my surprise, I heard that echo in my head once again from my childish game all those years. We will never give you our princess. She is too good for you. Now suddenly, it finally made sense to me. I realized that then and now, I could not bear for people to judge Faiza as a mere Kayo. The way I knew her, I felt that anyone who could not see her true worth beyond her trappings of poverty was just not good enough for her. I knew the rest of the world would see it differently, but this was Faiza, and I was used to things being the other way around. I did not know how Steve would take it to know what she had been, but I felt as long as there was no prospect of them meeting, there was not actually any need for him to know it, and that if by some miracle they ever met again, it would be Faiza's decision what to tell him, not mine. The day we talked about her, he was showing me his new camera. He was in the middle of his master's degree in the US and back home for the vacation. He had developed a passionate interest in photography and was proud of his new toy. It had a big lens, and he was showing me special filters one could put over the lens that gave particular tints or effects. I looked into the viewfinder and was amazed what a difference the filters made. It was a bit like life, I reflected. When people had a fixed idea in their heads, it was like a filter. They saw everything through it and often did not realize how discolored or distorted their picture was. I thought of Aunt Lydia, for example, with a Kayo filter or Hausa girl filter. When she used it, she could only see Faiza in a certain way. I wondered if Steve had a Kayo filter. She was from the north, I told him, from the Tolon area, and she lived in Accra for a while. She spent a lot of time in the market, and that's how I met her, as later she left and we lost contact. To my relief, he finally accepted this explanation. When we planned the wedding, I told him I would have liked her to be my maid of honor if we had still been in touch. That would be cool, he said. Why don't you have a look if she's on Facebook? I had a hard time keeping a straight face. Faiza on Facebook? Even if she was, I did not know her surname, had never thought to ask, and Faiza in the Muslim world was as common a name as Habina in my world. I knew so much about her, and at the same time, so little, I reflected.